It is the A to Z podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, A to Z podcast.com, facebook.com/A to Z podcast. Shout outs as always to Scene, to the Honeymoon Grill, to American Fireworks for helping to make this thing happen. The Indians are headed to Houston. Chances are they'll be there by the time this uploads, by the time you listen to it. Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon. We're going to touch on some other things, but we're going to talk some baseball. Andre, are you ready to talk Indians-Astros? More specifically, are you ready, finally, for some baseball games that count?
Yeah, it's been the longest spring training of all time. I wonder, when you had those great Yankees teams in the beginning of the 2000s, with their regular season, I'm just curious as to other teams that have been in this predicament, how their games played out throughout the regular season. And we always talk about that switch, and we all know that there isn't one. I've had players say there isn't one. I've had managers say it. I've had guys like Zach Jackson or I say it. But there will be a difference of atmosphere, and I don't care who you are, if you just played, local high school football or basketball, you did have a different adrenaline rush when you played a team that mattered to you. Whether it be a rival, homecoming game, and that's what I'm curious as to see how much the adrenaline rush changes how the Indians play. And I think this is the best series you could have. I know that we'll get Boston, Yankees, or A's shoved down our throat because we're doing this before the Yankees and A's play. But I think really it's two best pitching staffs. There's a lot of other characteristics. I've got an interview that's going to run with Corey Kluber before the game on Friday on Sports Time, talking about just him and Verlander, like how when Kluber came in and nobody knew who he was, Verlander was kind of the guy he wanted to match because Verlander was the guy in their division that ran shit, he ran the division. And somehow, some way he passed him by. In the last 5-6 starts Verlander had against the Indians in Detroit, he was absolutely, demolished. And it went from Verlander, just taking over and dominating the Indians to the Indians dominating the Tigers. And the changing of guard became Kluber becoming the number one guy in the AL Central and Verlander no longer that guy. Now, all of a sudden, Friday afternoon, those two, he's back at the top at 35 years old, one of the best in the game again. And Kluber is now a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. I just think, I don't care if it's TBS, Fox, MLB channel, you couldn't ask for a better game one in an ALCS, an ALDS, or a World Series when you just consider the times these two guys have matched up and how good both of them are.
I agree. Listen, any sport, any level, there's supposed to be games that feel different, right? There's supposed to be times that you really turn it up, and that kind of goes against what you preach and whatever. I think you get in trouble both being in and outside of the game drawing comparisons, especially cross sport and cross seasons. But this is a little like the Cavs, right? What they went through. I mean, the regular season was great for ESPN and for TNT and for some of the drama that LeBron seemed to thrive on and all that, but we knew they didn't play a game every single year that mattered until April 15th. And last April, they were scrimmaging in late April, right? If the Pacers could have made some shots, they'd have got knocked out then. So you have to bring it. You have to be ready. Two other things I just want to touch on before we dive into the series in baseball. You don't have to – well, actually three things because I'm going to start with this. You don't have to love baseball, and I'm talking about myself, to have watched that Cubs-Rockies game the other night and just thought that October baseball is awesome. Give you a taste of things, right? Get the blood flowing. I'm way too damn old to stay up till 1:07 a.m. for a game I have no emotional or financial interest in, but it was pretty fun. It was really fun. Second thing, I want to ask you about this, Dre. We know what's been going on with Le'Veon Bell over in Pittsburgh, and apparently it's going to go for 2 more weeks, and he's going to come back. We know what went on with Earl Thomas, and he flipped the Seattle sideline, the bird, the other day, which is a bad look, but you kind of empathize with him.
I know. I wanted to talk about this the other day. I'm so glad you brought it up.
So this is a business, and it's a cutthroat business. And it's not just sports business where sometimes the cash pile runs out or sometimes it gets moved on you, and you have to determine who gets it, who doesn't, who's got to go, right? Who doesn't get their fair share. Earl Thomas has every right, I think, to feel like he got screwed by the Seahawks, but this is the nature of it. It sucks that it happened. You hope that it's a clean break and he'll be back for free agency. All indications are that he were. These guys want to be treated like people, and they want the best, and I think that they do deserve more money and the right to maximize, especially in football, their are small windows in what's a short contract. But this is what happens, and without dehumanizing anybody or any situation. This is the nature of football. This is the nature of business, and it just sucks that this was the ending after he tried and tried and tried to not make it that, and then he goes out there, and it's just a reminder, I think, also to everybody that you're one play away.
Yeah, you're told that from the very beginning. You're one play away. Sometimes it takes seeing that to understand that and believe it. Just a couple thoughts I have on this, and I'm just being honest. I will be careful in how I talk about a guy that's holding out, because my stomach dropped when I watched that. And I heard certain people, and I get it, the look is never going to be applauded by America, by most, because it's not what you're taught. But I'll give Pete Carroll this, and I don't think Pete Carroll's the cleanest of clean. I think he's shadier than most, to be honest, but that's nor here nor there. I thought the one comment he made that I respected him for, and I'll give him extreme credit for, is that he basically said, Earl, and I think Wagner said it too. So it's an emotional game, man. And none of us know the emotions it takes to put yourself out there and put the wear and tear on our body the way they do. And when you've been and Deion Sanders said this after it happened, he says, you keep thinking about it, it happens. He goes, and this was on his mind. He made it quite clear just 2 weeks ago when he talked about he didn't want to practice because, if something didn't feel exactly right, he wasn't going to practice. And people said, well, you can't think that way. You can't do that. I tell you what, I'd rather be Le'Veon Bell than Earl right now. It's not right. It's a business. But I don't think we can ever totally understand how players feel. I don't even want to go into what owners feel, because they're making billions of dollars and their bodies and brains feel the same after 5-10 years, no matter what. So it is what it is. And if you can afford to sit out and get them to pay you what you think your worth is, God bless you. The thing is, most of us, I'd say 98% of the people in America, in this world, don't get paid what they're worth or what we think our worth is. But for Earl Thomas, my heart goes out to him, because you could just, the pain, the despair. He didn't want to be there, but he didn't want to let his fucking teammates down. And what does he have to show for it? Now, I felt really bad for him Sunday night when I went to bed, Z. Then I woke up, and because I cared so much about the situation, because it touched me. First thing I did Monday morning after I read Peter King and read something else, I looked up how much money Earl Thomas had earned. And this doesn't make it better or worse, but I'll admit it changed my emotions a little bit. He's made $56 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, well, and ain't that a life lesson too, that you can get caught up in the emotions of what anybody's going through, right? And then
right
at the end, you're looking out for number one, which is what these guys are trying to do from the start. And
right, for sure.
It's interesting. It's interesting times for football. There's no doubt. And we could do, and we will, and we have podcast upon podcast over the state of the game, the future of the game, from the NFL on down. That's for sure. One thing we do, if you're new here at this podcast, American Fireworks sponsors our Glory Days segment, where we reach way back in the archives, sometimes tell our youth football and basketball stories, sometimes high school, sometimes old Browns stories, whatever. With the Browns playing the Ravens this week, obviously a natural rival for reasons we don't need to go over, whether you're in Cleveland or not. But I do want to play a little American Fireworks Glory Days, Dre. Browns-Ravens moment that comes to mind.
Oh, well, the easy one is the field goal game in Baltimore, where we actually finally won a game. I know we've talked about that here on this podcast numerous times, because that was definitely just one of those moments. Because, as you guys all know, they never went there and won. The other one would be the Jeff Garcia victory over the Ravens back in 2001.
Yeah.
I believe. That was 2001, right?
2004. 2004, the only opener they've won.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Isn't that unbelievable? But that one's that one is memorable for me, because I remember, and I'm not here it's not to beat up Jeff Garcia, but there were just a lot of questions asked to, all right, is this guy really an MVP candidate? How good is he? What kind of offense did he really play in? Why does Terrell Owens keep annihilating this guy and mocking him and making fun of him? There was just so much that went into it. And then he went out and he won a game that, he didn't play great. He played like he did when he was here. And then I'll just never forget, he had enthusiasm. He fit in, and I'll never forget his dad being in the dog pound that first day. And damn it, as much as we hate saying it, sometimes the stories write themselves. And that was a good-ass story to go along to start the season that made you think that, all right, the Browns have turned the corner, that they're with the big boys, because Their guy made plays, and we all know it didn't turn out that way, and he ended up becoming just another jersey on that long jersey. But that was a great feeling, and I go with the 2007 game because that was a great feeling as well. I guess what I get at from that is I tried to find two positives because Lord knows. Here's another one. I remember the last game. Deion Sanders was 37 years old, starting at safety for him, and it was at home. And this is like I want to say 05 maybe, totally guessing. And I'll never forget Kevin Mack saying, "Man, it's nothing like watching three future Hall of Famers. Too bad they're on the wrong team." Because at the time, we were watching Deion Sanders warm up at safety next to Ed Reed, next to Ray Lewis, and I want to say their defensive end was real good too. Not Rob Burnett. It was I think
they would have had Mike McCrary at the time.
Yeah, it was Mike McCrary. Guys, it was guys like that.
Right.
But they had each level of their defense had Hall of Fame type players. It was amazing, and they demolished us.
Yeah. Okay. So for the 2004 game, both offenses were bad. Both defenses were good. The Browns were underdogs, obviously. And I remember Ed just getting so tired of their offense sucking that Garcia caught him cheating, trying to make a play through it with Andre Davis over his head, and that kind of broke it open for the Browns. It was a huge win. A lot of excitement, and then of course it all went for shit the very next week when Garcia went 0.0 quarterback rating and Kellen got hurt on a meaningless play in Dallas. Congrats to you, Butch Davis, on that. The 07 game is remembered for the stanchion and the controversy, and you're right, just the magnitude of the Browns needing a quality win, only having won in Baltimore once previously and going and getting it.
Right.
But when you take that out, one of the more dramatic plays with the field goal, and not the only one Phil hit that day, but Brian Billick got himself fired that day by kicking to Josh Cribbs, and that's the day that Josh Cribbs went from real feel-good story in Cleveland and well-hidden secret being an undrafted guy on a bad team to kind of national level, holy shit, you can't kick this guy, kick the ball to this guy. Right. So that was big. I remember, obviously, my first trip to Raven Stadium when Jamal Lewis went for 295 and set the NFL record.
Mm-hmm.
I remember.
Hey, they held him down other than 5 goals.
Yeah, another congrats to Butch Davis. I remember buying the USA Today in the airport the next morning, and there's a picture of like Dalen McCutcheon lunging at Jamal and Ben Taylor like dragging on his back and Jamal still running. One of those things I'll never forget. And then of course I wasn't stuck in Oakland Stadium the other night, but the only two exits I knew to find were both gated off or closed, and so I would say I was temporarily detoured or detained. But it reminded me of two times. One time, the only time I've actually been a little bit scared in a stadium situation is leaving a race. I don't know what year this would have been, but we couldn't find our way out, and we were about an hour and a half in the stadium, and it was to a point of the night where I was starting to think I was going to have to spend the whole night in I don't know what it was. It's called M&T Bank now. I don't know what it was then.
Yeah.
And then of course
Chanel's done that for years.
Uncle Jeff. And that of course leads us to one of the famous A to Z stories where the Browns got their ass kicked about 49-6, and we were walking out and they fed us Popeyes on the way to the bus, and they looked at us and they said, "Guys, are you hungry?" And you looked at the guy and said, "And his name Jackson, he liked chicken."
That was one of the best moments of all time. They fed us Popeyes, and we got our ass kicked. And I'll never forget, Jim Donovan, we were on the bus waiting for the bus to leave to go to the airport. Jim Donovan goes, "So you guys like this stuff, huh?" He goes, "It's pretty good." It was like Jim Donovan had never had Popeyes, and he's in the back he's licking his fingers, having the time of his life. And I'm looking at him going, "Yeah, I knew you'd be down, Jimmy."
Yeah.
It was the best moment.
Oh, remember the smiles on our faces just sitting in the back of that bus, just covered in mashed potatoes and spicy chicken. Oh, Jesus.
Zach was trading his bags with other people that didn't want like legs and thighs. He was like, "Oh, you don't want the thigh? I'll take your thigh." Like, Zach, that's a true story. We ate so much chicken, we could have flew home from Baltimore.
Oh, yes, the glory days. Again, sponsored by the fine folks at American Fireworks. I don't know why they associate with us. I don't know why they actually pay us to do this, but we're sure damn glad that they do. So support them.
And it brings up great stories, man. It brings up great stories.
And listen,
it really does.
We talked about football, and we will. We're going to get to baseball, but I think, Dre, the most encouraging thing, and this opinion has been backed up by a couple of people that I've talked to this week, is like if you can take the anger out of it, and whether that's with the referees or with Hugh or whatever, Like, the Browns are back to playing these wild games. Like, it sucks to compete and lose, and it's not good enough because it is a winning business. But, like, the rest of the year, starting this Sunday against the Ravens team that sure as hell looks good enough to play in the Super Bowl, right? Like,
right.
You're right there. It should be another game like that. It should be a close, competitive game that goes to the fourth quarter, and that's exciting.
You said the word. They can compete. They can compete now, and that's the step. And that was and shout out to my man Rob, Black Rob from college. I love you, miss you. I got to hang out with you soon. I can get our boys together as soon as baseball season's over. So that could be next week. Hopefully not. That's why I talked the way I did about Hugh in our last podcast. I knew it wasn't going to be popular, and I know everyone doesn't agree with me. I'm sure everyone doesn't agree with me. Hell, I don't know if I agree with everything I said. I'm just trying to have a conscious thought process with it because they're playing games that matter. Not even they're an NFL team now. You know, like they're playing NFL games. They're not like the game on the NFL Network where they just show the score on the bottom and they go, all right, let's go to New York for the Giants. You know, they actually talk about what happens in the Browns games. That is a step. And every step is like baby steps. You know, like them scoring all those points. This is the best thing. I don't know if I said this on the last pod, but as they were scoring all those points, Arch, who's like an old man watching a movie, and we're like, turn the game on. His football game is actually good. He goes, holy shit, they haven't scored. When's the last time they scored that many points? Without even thinking, without even like going through his mind at all, Matt Underwood just goes, shit, they ain't scored that many since Andre was on the sideline rolling up and down the field. And lo and behold, it was. And we laughed, and then I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, you're right. It was 07 against Cincinnati, and that shootout that they had against the Bengals. That was the Derek Anderson coming out party.
Yeah, it was.
And the Charlie Fry get your ass to Seattle party.
Yeah.
So, in saying all of that, I think and we all watch differently. I wasn't in a sports bar with all my favorite friends like some of you may have been. I wasn't hanging out with with whoever you watched the game. For me, we did a baseball game. We got on a plane. I got on a bus and a plane, and it was for the 100+ people that were on my flight. Forget what they do professionally. That was on every TV screen. That was being yelled and screamed. That was on everybody's laptop or iPad. Like they were like usually it take like maybe half, but the whole team, everyone was watching. That was a cool moment because it says what you just said. They're competing again, and because everybody is based out of Cleveland, you see a team competing, you want to watch and enjoy it, and you get into it. Now the biggest thing they have is, can you continue competing and making yourself a viable thing to watch?
Right. I left my numbers in the car. I don't have them right now, but I think Flacco is 17-2 against the Browns, and that shouldn't surprise anybody, even though it jumps off the page. But the point is, every year you hear Flacco say things like, "Well, we respect the Browns; they always play us well, whatever," and you roll your eyes. But now, especially with Baker's first home start and the Browns being clearly improved, and the Ravens coming in a natural letdown spot after winning one of their Super Bowls last week,
right.
They better bring it or he will be 17-3. I think this game is going to the last 4 minutes, maybe the last 40 seconds, and we'll see what happens. All right, Dre, you're like 30 minutes from getting on a plane with the Indians and going to Houston. There will be more plane trips in October and 2 other cities besides Houston. If. Complete that sentence.
Ooh, all right. If Corey Kluber goes out and can dominate in game 1, if you can get a great start from Corey, and I know everybody wants to talk about the bullpen. I think Bauer, and I've told Bauer this already, and I shouldn't say this. Bauer's pissed off, and I think he's going to be the MVP of the playoffs. That's my first statement. If that happens, we're about to have a fun October. I know I don't want to speak for him, but Bauer's never happy though, and that's good. Like that's a good thing. It's a great way to motivate him. And if Lindor has the coming out, like Lindor already is, I think he's known. But remember this, Lindor, all the guys that Lindor's are really his boys. And I hate putting it all on Frankie because you're going to need everybody to contribute. But we need like a 500 series or him hit 450 in a series, right? Wouldn't that just make everybody go, holy shit? But Correa, last year, Puerto Rican shortstop, #1 pick. Him and Frankie are tight, but I don't know how tight. Why? Because Carlos has a World Series ring already. Javi Baez, Chicago Cubs, 2 years ago, Puerto Rican shortstop, drafted same draft as Frankie. Frankie was on the same stage with them. After we lost Game 7 in 2016, the first persons after he was outside of our clubhouse and went to, he went and hugged Javi Baez's mom back behind our dugout. And it about made me cry to see how emotional he was and she was in that moment. But I knew it killed Frankie that it was Javi that won and it wasn't him. You only get so many chances. He told me after the game, he told a bunch of his, like the sixth inning of the game on Sunday when I was watching football and kind of watching baseball. I said, hey, man, if everything stays the way it is, can you come back out and do the interview with me if you're going to get pulled? And he looked at me, he was like, I'm fucking playing. I go, what? And he goes, nah, man. He goes, ain't nobody taking me out. He said, I'm playing all 9 innings the last game of the season because I said the first day of the season, this season's all about finishing. I want to finish, and I'm finishing this game. Now, to me, it was meaningless and whatever, but my point to this is this whole season for him is that every time I've brought up, hey, this is a great to get you ready for the playoffs, he's like, Dre, playoffs are completely different. I don't care if I have the shittiest regular season ever. What matters is what I do in October. He's been uber focused upon getting to this moment. And usually great athletes with great God-given abilities that work their ass off, train their ass off. We watched the guy do it here for 11 years. And I'm not saying he's him, but I guess I can in this city when people want to put Baker Mayfield up after 4 quarters. The kid is special. And if he's as special as we think that he is, he's got to have that coming out party where everybody says, holy shit, I want to watch this kid play every night. I know he's had some moments. The Puerto Rico thing will be a great beginning. Winning the World Series, being an MVP candidate would be the exclamation point. They don't win if the pitching falls apart.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, let's start there. The fact that the bullpen did not have a good year for various reasons means a lot or means a little now that it's October.
That's I can't answer because I very easily can say it doesn't mean a damn thing right now. But it may mean a damn thing in 2 weeks, in a week.
Sure.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does because despite Andrew Miller's last appearance, he finally looked like himself this last month of the season. Now, is he a 6-month pitcher and that can be abused? Has he been the same since the 2016 playoff run? No, probably not. But if they've rested him up, and I know they have, and gone out of their way to save up every bullet he has for this run, well, Tito's going to get every drop out of the $10 million they ain't paid him this year.
Right.
That's why I think he's special enough that's why I think Bauer's going to be the MVP, though. Because I think Bauer is going to be the madman out of the bullpen in the 3rd or 4th or 5th inning, and he's going to take it in the 6th or 7th and then hand it off to Miller and then give it to Brad Hand.
Right.
So, yeah, I say no because of that. Because I know that they plan on using Bauer and Carrasco out of the bullpen later on in the series. So no, okay. I'm not.
Kluber's struggles last year mean anything at this point?
No. I mean, he took care of himself. He knows how to prepare himself. His back wasn't right last year at this time. He hit through the most innings in baseball this year. If there was a concern, the Indians wouldn't let him be the guy that throws the most innings pitched in the American League, right?
Right.
I'm just going to go off common sense.
Yeah.
And common sense says when you got an arm like that, you got a future, and he's the biggest part of your future. If they were worried about his health, they wouldn't have him pitching the way he's pitched over the last few years.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
That's the faith that I have, and I got to ride with, to be honest.
Okay. The Indians have hit Justin Verlander in the past. Mean a lot or a little right now?
Means a lot right now because it gives all those hitters. If a hitter goes in the box feeling comfortable and good about himself, I think better results happen. That doesn't mean great results will, but I think when you see a guy like the kid that pitched for and it's not Verlander, but and Donaldson's got great numbers against Keuchel. He's got great numbers against Edwin has great numbers against him as well against different starters. I think that matters in baseball because I think it's such a mental game. You know what I mean? Like, it's same in football. If I'm a left tackle and this defensive end or linebackers throw me on my ass and embarrass me once or twice and got to sack my quarterback, that's in the back of my mind, right? I'm going to play towards that. Like, I'm going to cheat. If Myles Garrett is fucking knocked me on my ass 3 or 4 times, and I got to block him for 80 plays this week.
Yeah.
That creeps into your mind, and you play a little differently. Right? You might be a little bit more cautious towards the bull rush for this. I think baseball is the same exact way. If a guy's banged me and got a double off me or a home run off of me, even though he's superior, his talent is superior. Like he's no schlub. But in his mind, in certain counts, he's going to think twice about certain pitches he throws to guys. And in baseball, that can be the difference between winning and losing. So, yes, I think it matters. I think I can say that and he can still go out and shove. But I think I'd rather our hitters go to bed tomorrow night and go to bed tonight thinking, hey, man, I've had some big hits off this guy. I got more in me.
Right. Jose Ramirez had an MVP-type season, but he didn't even hit 200, I don't think, over the last 6 weeks. So what do you think we'll see from him? First of all, will he be at his normal spot in the order, and what do you think we'll see from Jose this weekend?
I can't see Tito moving him. That would be so un-Tito-like to do. It's a little concerning. It's absolutely concerning. I mean, the guy played it's absolutely concerning because of how bad he hit in the last 6 weeks of the season. But it's not because, and I don't think anyone around him, I think the thing about Jose is he carries himself with so much charisma and so much belief in himself. And we've seen him go through periods like this where nothing works for him and nothing goes right. And then 3 days later, he's hit 3 home runs. His confidence and his bravado comes off as a little machismo at times. And some people may not like it, but it's what's got him here. So I think he's one good swing away from tearing up all the playoffs. My main thing is turn the double play at second, don't make errors at second. He's a he's a Gold Glove caliber, and this is a scout speaking, not me. Gold Glove caliber second baseman with time and when he's right. He hasn't played that way so far. Hey man, every time he comes this is the thing that he has, and this is why I think the Indians have a good chance. And look, the Astros have these types of guys as well, and the Yankees have them. But if you're a Cleveland fan, this is my hope. When I was growing up in the 90s, and the team was unbelievable.
You were done growing by like 93, but go ahead.
I was a bad mofo. There were like 3 guys who didn't go to the bathroom to miss their at-bats.
Right.
My buddy Rob's was Albert Bell. Mine was Manny Ramirez. I didn't care if I was going to pee myself. I didn't care what else was going on in life. If I was getting yelled and screamed at by my parents, I was going to watch that last Manny Ramirez at-bat of the day. Because you knew something special could happen anytime he swung it. Well, Cleveland, you've got 4 of those type guys right now, and Jose being one of the most, to me, premier, I don't give a shit the moment who's pitching, I'm the best player on the field moments. And I think I love that about that bravado about him. You got it between him, Lindor, Edwin, and now Donaldson. If they keep it close, we could have some epic nights because one of those guys is going to come through sooner or later. It's who they are. It's why they're here.
Right.
And that's what has me excited about this weekend.
All right. So for those of us who've been busy with the Browns, Jose's slump started before Donaldson got there and before he switched positions.
Oh yeah.
That's
way
what I
before
thought.
That.
But it's not easy. It's not easy on anybody to do that, even though he is skilled enough to do that.
No,
right?
And I've heard some people say it. And I'm always like, you weren't paying attention. He hasn't hit well since the All-Star break. And there's more. He hasn't hit well since the All-Star break.
Okay,
I'll leave it at that. So we'll see.
All right, so Donaldson's the third baseman, Jose's the second baseman, and Kip's the center fielder, right? When they take the field Friday afternoon. That's what you're going to get for the first 5-6 innings, yes. Okay.
You're going to get except against maybe like Keuchel. Keuchel in Game 3, they might start Greg Allen, I would guess.
Right. Well, this is the thing about these series where they're short and everything's at stake. I mean, Game 3 is a million years away, right? Like, if something's not working, a lot could change by then. That's for
right.
Sure. All right, so speaking of that, getting away from the strategy and whatever, any indication as to when? Are we looking at late afternoon Monday for Game 3?
Yeah, I'm just guessing. I can't see it not being. Okay. And by the time it comes out, it'll be out. I would think it's going to be like 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock. It'll be the middle of the day. There's a lot going on TV, and I don't know. I don't know. I see some people seem to get so frustrated by this. It is what it is, man. It's the playoffs. You figure out a way. I mean, come on. When you know Boston or New York has a chance to be on, it's just that's how TV works. That's why I want a Brewers Indians World Series.
Right. Well, yeah.
Just to piss off Americans.
Yeah, I said Brewers-Rockies is going to be the NBA TV game of these playoffs. That's how it's going to go. No, and you would think, Dre, I mean, again, I'm kind of speaking out of school, but the Indians and the Astros have been here before, right? So when it's played, what day it's played, what they got to do. Like, both these teams have done this. They've succeeded. They've not succeeded. Like, the best team's going to win, right, over the next week.
Right, for sure. And that's how it works.
I know the Astros. They're obviously one of the best teams in baseball. They're the defending champs. They had the mid season rut, and things were in question, and then they finished strong. Correct. So, just what do you see from them coming into October?
They've totally flipped their bullpen from the bullpen that we saw last year. Hell, even the bullpen that we saw back in May when we played them. And they've done really well. They've had some injuries. They've had to go through. They've got George. They've got some players I like too. Bregman has basically had a Jose Ramirez type of year at third base. Bregman has become a stud of studs. He's going to continue playing very well. The second baseman is one of my favorite players to watch in Altuve. His story is phenomenal. Just how he's become who he's become and how damn good he is.
He's a treat.
He is. We've talked about Correa. Correa's had a back injury. Hasn't really played enough for us to know either way, if he's going to be able to if he's still the same player. To be completely honest, when you have back injuries during the season, they change how players play, as we all know. They're talented, though, man. And they're a talented 25-man roster. I love how they play. They're a carbon copy of the Indians. I really see that. They were pushed a little bit more in their division, as we all know, because of the Oakland Athletics, and Seattle even pushed them for a while. That may help them in the playoffs. It may not. Maybe they had to use up more, juice than they needed to. We will see. I think the regular season is going to be a good conversation piece, though, for this series because of what I just said. Indians haven't been pushed all year, and their record kind of showed it. And their play showed it, rather. The Astros were pushed by a couple teams, and I think their record does show it. They got a better record. They got some better numbers. And I think that probably comes from getting pushed. But they're a good team. And I think the one thing is once you win a championship, I think, like you said, they don't care what time of game it is. They don't care. None of that matters anymore.
Yeah.
Just tell us when to show up. And I think the Indians have gone through it. Like, baseball couldn't ask for a better first-round series. They really could.
I agree. All right, I got 90 seconds left. I'm not at home. I'm getting kicked out of this room in 90 seconds. You mentioned Miller. You mentioned Bauer. We know Jose and Frankie. A name that we didn't mention that if the Indians advance will play a big role. 45 seconds.
Cody Allen.
Yeah, see, you got to wonder about him, right?
Yeah. I mean, and they got so many damn right-handed hitters that you got to have it. You need them. This isn't one of those moments where you need the right-handed bat, a right-handed pitcher into the bullpen. That's why I said Bauer's going to be so big. And Carrasco. This could be Carrasco's coming out party if he can go out there. And he's been the best pitcher on the team since All-Star break. So that would be the two that I would go with, Carrasco or Cody Allen, because Game 5, you may have Carrasco coming out of the bullpen in the third inning. Or even in the fourth game, he could be coming out of the bullpen if Beaver starts. So he's going to play a big part, and so is Cody Allen, for them to go anywhere.
All right, Andre will be in Houston by the time you listen to this. Thank you guys for listening. Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast, A to Z Podcast.com. Subscribe, leave a review. Thanks for your support. Enjoy the games. 2 o'clock Friday, 4:30 Saturday. We know you'll be glued 1 o'clock Sunday. We will be back Sunday or Monday, depending on baseball and football availability schedules. We'll see what happens. Thank you for all your support of the A to Z Podcast. For Andre, I'm Zach. We'll talk to you soon.
Konnichiwa, Cleveland.